classroom.
You don't have to because it's
So-
classroom signups.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've been talking about religion a lot lately. We're going to, this is kind of the grand finale of religion for a bit. It crops up again every now and then in American history, but it won't be every day after this. Because it's really been every day for a little bit. Okay, we'll try, I tell you what, don't worry about it. But yeah, if not, I'll get with you on Monday, we'll make sure it gets done. Okay, so here we go, the First Great Awakening. And because of how I did the title, what does that imply? There's multiple Great Awakenings. So a Great Awakening refers to a religious revival, meaning religion becomes more important and more central to people's lives. The First Great Awakening, and by the way, we're only talking about 4 throughout American history. This is the first, and we're looking at about the years 1730 to 1740. All right, so the First Great Awakening. So, revival. What exactly is being revived? And yeah, it's going to be, this religious revival is really going to start in the old Puritan places. The Puritans are doing a halfway covenant. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. And they're getting away from those hardcore Christian do this or you're kicked off the hill type of laws and rules, and they want to bring that back to the community. So the original New England settlers, the Puritans, sought to establish a religious commonwealth, or we called it a theocracy. Remember this guy? Yeah, Winthrop with his city on a hill. And I mentioned this previously. The Puritans show up in 1620. They don't waste hardly any time before they establish the first college, and the first college in America, the first university college in America is Harvard, and it was established by the Puritans to train preachers, to train the next level of Puritan preachers. Jamestown was established in 1607. There was not a college university there until 1690s. Okay, so not that important, right? Because they cared about making the money, not necessarily about education, training, or in this case, religion. So Harvard to train the new preachers. And this is where we see the first public schools in America is in New England, particularly Massachusetts, who still leads the country in education and achievement by states. Massachusetts, where the Puritans are, education, reading the Bible, super important to them. So this is the intent here. God has carried us safe to New England. We have built our houses. We have made places convenient for God's worship. We have set up the government. One of the next things we longed for and looked after was to advance learning and perpetuate it to posterity, dreading to leave an illiterate ministry. They dread to leave an illiterate ministry. So, this is why we're going to advocate education. So, obviously the first goal is don't die, right? Goal 2, they need to educate ministers so they can continue on the Puritan traditions. Now, the first generation will die. This is an engraving of the deathbed of gone, the next generation, they're not so serious. They don't like the strict rules. They get a little bit bored with reporting to the community church 3 times a day. And yes, you had to report to church 3 times a day. So they started slacking, which brings us to the halfway covenant. So halfway covenant is one of our, yeah, I don't know. The halfway covenant is one of our vocabulary words, and it refers to allowing people to join the church, the Puritan church, because you had to be a member of the Puritan church to be a member of the Puritan community.
Didn't it heavily affect children as well, to be baptized?
Yes, and it made it just a little lenient. You could be baptized in the church, but you did not have to have a conversion moment. The Puritans and a lot of these early evangelical groups that we're going to be talking about, they were really big on this conversion moment. And if you have attended church, particularly a Baptist church, they're still really big on this. This idea that you make a, I don't want to say make a scene or make a show, because it makes it sound like you're putting on a show, and you're not. It's heartfelt. But really, that's kind of what it is. A conversion moment is you stand up and you profess to everybody that you feel the Holy Spirit in your heart, and you have given your life to Jesus, and you're ready to be baptized, and you're making this pronouncement. So you are showing this conversion moment. And you didn't have to have that with the halfway covenant. But it did allow people in the so-called Great Migration, which was a whole bunch of new Puritans from England coming over to America, to New England. It allowed them to join this Puritan community and be church members. So, we need a revival, because watering down the requirements probably isn't such a good idea. So a lot of preachers turn to fire and brimstone preaching. And this is a term that we're going to see throughout American history, fire and brimstone. A lot of, there's different strategies to get people to accept Christ and to become a Christian. And a lot of times churches preach love and community. And Jesus died for your sins because he loves you. Accept him into your heart, and you will be transformed. But other churches and preachers say this is more effective. You better accept Jesus, or you will burn in hell for eternity. And devils will poke you with pitchforks and peel the skin off of your body for eternity. So be saved now. And the Great Awakening, there was a lot of fire and brimstone. Scaring people into being saved. And the expression was turn or burn. Right? Turn away from your sins or burn in hell forever. Choice is yours. Turn or burn. So it all is aiming toward this conversion moment. This moment where there is a change in a person's heart, and they make a profession to the congregation that they're ready to accept Jesus, or they have accepted Jesus. Like a modern day equivalent might be a lot of churches end the service with an altar call. Come forward if you're ready to accept Christ. Kind of the same sort of deal. We're going to look at a handful of preachers that were part of this Great Awakening. And we're going to start with this guy, John Wesley. He is from England and will travel to America. And he actually starts his own Christian denomination, the Methodists. And that is the church I attend most, is a Methodist church. Methodism is a part of the Calvinist kind of family of Christianity, Protestantism. And the Methodists are big on this personal conversion as well. This idea that you will feel something change in your heart and then you make this profession. So John Wesley with his Methodist. Now, something that all three of these preachers will have in common, and Wesley kind of started this, is they are all itinerant preachers. Itinerancy means that you travel from place to place to place to place to place to place to place. John Wesley did not have his own church in America. He traveled the countryside and preached. And whenever he felt that everybody in that community that he could save has been saved, he moves on to the next town and saves as many souls as he can there, then moves to the next town. And the Methodist Church does still keep that up. They rotate preachers in and out of churches, usually every 5 years or so, because they don't want any one church to get too stale with same preacher. But itinerant preaching, moving from town to town to town, saving as many people as you can along the way. And John Wesley, since he's the guy that kind of started this movement, he literally would just pick a spot outside of town on the main road usually, because usually if he was in town, they'd kick him out. But he was usually on the outskirts of a large town on a main road where people would be going by, and he literally just set up shop and started preaching there. Maybe pitched a little tent if he was planning on staying a few days, and he started preaching. And day one, he might have 10 people that stopped along the road to listen to him. Day two, it might be 200. Day three, you might have 1,000 people that have brought in little chairs from their houses and picnic lunches. And he would gather a big crowd everywhere he went. These next two, Whitefield and Edwards, these are the two that you most associate with the Great Awakening. John Wesley was mostly down in the southern colonies. Whitefield and Edwards, they're up in New England, in the upper middle colonies. And this is really the hotbed of the Great Awakening. George Whitefield. This is a nice depiction of George Whitefield. He was known to be, people commented about his appearance a lot, we'll just say that. This artist was nice. So Whitefield, just like Wesley, he is English, he is from England, and he comes to the colonies. He based a lot of his preaching on emotional appeals, and he is itinerant as well. He's going to travel over 5,000 miles, crisscrossing the countryside of New England and the middle colonies. And in a year, he's going to give over 350 sermons. Oh, no worries. So that's obviously multiple sermons a day. And that obviously kept him really busy. Oh, I got the name. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I just got to put in my pen. Massachusetts, and from Massachusetts. He was born in the colonies. He actually was trained at Harvard. Was it Harvard? It might have been Yale. Don't quote me on that. I think it might be on an upcoming slide. But he's an American. And this is his most famous sermon, and we're going to take a look at a little excerpt of it. And here is a little taste of sinners in the hands of an angry God. He said, unconverted men walk over the pit of hell on a rotten covering. The devil stands waiting for them, like greedy, hungry lions that see their prey and expect to have it. He also talks about how God holds men in their hands and at any time can just do this and let them fall into hell if those men displease him. And men in the generic form here. So he is your fire and brimstone God, scaring people to be saved. You don't need to list this, but Ben Franklin, he of course was living in Pennsylvania at the time, Philadelphia to be exact, and this is what he says about the Great Awakening. It seemed as if the whole world were growing religious, so that one could not walk through the town in an evening without hearing psalms sung in different families on every street. All right, let's talk about this real quick here. Old lots versus new lots. And people identify themselves a lot of times as an old life type of person or a new life type of person. Old lighters, they are well established in the community perhaps. They are formally educated. They are what you would consider the elite. There you go. Yep. New lights, not so much. This is not very elite, right? Jesus is the rizzle for the sizzle. They're trying to maybe appeal to a more, younger crowd, perhaps. So old lights, this is old school stuff. Like nowadays churches who still just use a piano or an organ or no type of instrumental at all. It's just people singing praise to God. Whereas the new lights, you have the whole band up on stage, right? And the drummer is rocking out to the praise songs. So, whenever we're talking about the new lights, even though Edwards was formally educated, he is going to be associated with the new lights. The old lights, they were, well, the Bible says that if you don't do this, then you may. And according to, 1 Corinthians chapter this and that, this is what you need to do. But the new lights, it's the fire and brimstone. It's the touching your heart, not necessarily your head, right? Old lights, educated ministry. The new lights, a lot of the new light ministers, they were folks that heard a calling and kind of ordained themselves. Old lights, again, established classes. Their daddy was a preacher. They are the preacher. This is how things go in life because this is the order. And new lights, they were regular folks. Even the dispossessed, meaning folks that maybe didn't own property, or maybe if they did, they were a small farmer that they didn't have any other political rights. And it was the regular crowd. Oh, it was Yale. Golly. That's okay. That's all right. Yale.
That was John Edwards.
John Edwards was Yale. I thought he was. Now the new lighters will eventually want to have a trained clergy, and that's where we get Princeton. New Light Presbyterians are going to establish the College of New Jersey, which nowadays we know as Princeton. To have a literate clergy.
Why did they change it from New Jersey to DC? Why did they change it?
I don't know if, like, I would suspect it probably happened with the American Revolution. A lot of things, we change a lot of names after that because we don't want to be associated with the old English tradition. But honestly, I don't know. Yeah, baby. Sure. All right, last little bit. Legacies of the Great Awakening. Yes. There we go. First one. Legacies of the Great Awakening. Here we go. There's a lot of different ways that people are worshiping in the American colonies. They're going to not necessarily the church established in the center of town. They're going out to, the big oak tree on the highway to listen to John Wesley. There are new denominations, I won't say religions, all of these are Christian. But there's, not everything is just the Church of England. Not everything is just that original Puritan church. You're going to have a lot of different types, different ways of preaching, different locations. And everybody sees it as, yeah, that's cool. You do you. If that's how you like it, go ahead. You also see the rise of evangelicals. The evangelicals of the day were the Methodists and the Baptists. And when we say evangelical, let's make sure we understand what this term means. An evangelical means to go out and get people. As in, John Wesley preaching here, saving as many people as he can, then going to the next town. Saving as many people as he can, going over there, saving as many people as he can. He is going out to the people, okay? So that's what we mean by evangelical. You have to go out and reach people. You don't wait for people to show up to your church. You go out and get the people. This is a biggie. The idea that is being preached by a lot of these Great Awakening preachers is that, and this is something that started way back with the Protestant Reformation, and it's being kind of rekindled. This idea that you don't have to go through the established church, the Church of England, the Holy Catholic Church, to develop a relationship with Christ and be saved for heaven. You can read the Bible, you can listen to sermons, you can meditate on the Bible and the gospel as you interpret it. That can save you. The church ran by the government ain't gonna save you. You do that. And finally, everybody will, well, I say everybody, historians like to connect legacy of the Great Revolution to the American Revolution. So some of the things that we've talked about, why would we say that the Great Awakening is one of those background causes for the American Revolution?
It puts a difference between the English and the English. They're like, have both religiously different backgrounds.
Yes.
They didn't
Connected
agree with
to
each
England.
other.
Yes. So yeah, this idea that, hey, we're doing things differently over here in America. We are not necessarily following your state church, the Church of England. Is that what we were saying? Is that what you were saying? Yeah, okay. So we are doing things differently over here in the American colonies. And we really don't need England, Church of England, to tell us how to run our religious lives. And it's not such a stretch to think, well, if we don't need the Church of England to run our religious lives, which back then was the most important part of your life. And Christians today, I think, would say is the most important part of your life, because if you really believe that there is a heaven and that there's a hell, and you obviously want to be in one and not the other, that should drive a lot of what you do in your life, right? And that's the most important decision that you will make. So, religion being so centered in the lives of the colonists back then, it's not a stretch to say, well, if I don't really need that Church of England, or even I don't need that Catholic Church, then saying I don't need that government telling me what to do is not a huge stretch. This idea of individualism as well. The individual makes a connection to Christ. You don't make a connection to the church, you make it directly to Christ. So this individual idea, this individualism that's being fostered in America will also perpetuate that. All right, I think that is my last little slide there. Okay, let's check our schedule here. I don't have it memorized
We
yet.
leave at
12:10, so we got
20 minutes.
20 minutes. All right, let's look at this. Yes, sir.
Could I get the code again? I'm waiting for my mom to respond to it.
Oh, no, and I erased it. Yeah, no worries. It is. Yeah. Okay. So what's on the agenda here? I tell you what, we're going to skip the sermons and we're going to go right to the puzzles. Puzzles! All right. So, don't get too excited because these are really stinking hard. Okay, so.
I want Sia on my team. I want Sia on my team. Sia, yes,
So,
yeah.
this is
I'm not American. No, you're good at
You
puzzles.
should work with a buddy or two, okay? We don't need to have more than 3 people in a group, but if you can have a small group, it's hard to everybody working together and get 2 minutes. But basically, the way this works, you have pieces like this, and they will form I call it a quilt. Okay, so let's see. Right here, this seems to be right here. It says the idea that salvation is attained through faith in divine grace, and then you would find the vocab word that goes along with that. Let's see if I find a little bit something easier. How about natives grew resentful of Spanish rule and rebelled around Santa Fe, New Mexico. Natives won concessions from the Spanish. So an Indian revolt in New Mexico. Pueblo revolt, and I actually just saw Pueblo revolt right here. So that would match up nicely like that. Okay? So, here we go.
We got this.
So let me know how you want to do this. You can work on your own, you work with a buddy, group of 3 would be fine. And I'll come give you a little baggie with
open for you all.
Right, yeah.
I'm gonna put it on my desk actually.
Final words.
Goodbye. It's been nice.